This is Crew Tales, Life in the Circus. In the motion picture world, there are an army of dedicated professionals who work behind the scenes to make the movies and shows we watch today. I'm Brad Hodson, and I've spent over 30 years in the motion picture industry. This podcast celebrates the people who make the magic behind the scenes. Gina, welcome to the circus.
Hi, Brad.
Describe what you do.
Currently, I am a producer and a director, but I am my husband doesn't like me saying I'm a new director, but I am. And I sort of embrace that because I've only directed 2 films, 1 documentary, and then my first scripted, which I just finished directing, but I've been producing for 20 years.
Describe a bit your journey on how you got to where you are today.
Okay, well, we're going to throw it way back. I started in the industry. So film industry aside, I started in the fashion industry in 1979 when I was 15 years old. I'm 62 now. I'm very proud to say my age. I worked in the fashion industry and began as a makeup artist. And I worked my way up through retail, and there was no schools back then for anything that we did. Film, makeup, anything. So it was, I call it the School of Hard Knocks and the Institute of Trial and Error. So I just taught myself how to do makeup by looking at all the pros. I would go and sit and look over their shoulder at exactly what they're doing and then just go recreate it. And then I just sort of worked my way up and started doing all the makeup in Vancouver. And I moved to Toronto and I had an agent in Toronto, worked there as a makeup artist, was asked to be a fashion producer for a national TV show. And I'm like, sure. Didn't do makeup. And then they asked me to produce fashion shows across Canada. So I produced fashion shows and took it to every major and minor mall across Canada. My theory on a career is you just say yes and you learn on the job, but you don't ever let them see you sweat. You just do it and you nod and you smile and you're like, I can do that. And that has always been my theory. So that's the beginning of my career.
And you've reinvented yourself, for lack of a better word, several times. That you have an odd curve to your career.
I do. I know. People cannot figure me out. So doing makeup, I moved to LA. So I became a Hollywood makeup artist and worked with young celebrities like Robert Downey Jr., Drew Barrymore, just a whole host of celebrities. And I did magazine work, everything. I was a personal makeup artist to a soap star and Red Hot Chili Peppers, blah, blah, blah. And then after being in LA for a couple of years, I really wanted to come back to Vancouver. I missed the rain on my skin. 72 and sunny every day was just not cutting it for me. I loved my job. I loved my career. I knew I could come back and be, tops in my field in Vancouver. So I came back. But what inspired me to come back from LA is I was with the top agency, Celestine, who represented me as a makeup artist / hairstylist. And I would always look at Angelica and how she ran her agency, and we became good friends. I was sort of pulled to another agency. We had a small group, and I went over to this other smaller agency, Dory Sherman, and she asked me to sit in on all the Jewish holidays, and I had to do all the bookings. And I said, I want to open the first agency in Western Canada because there's never been representation in Western Canada. And so I came back and I started my agency. But then I became pregnant with my son. And so that was 33 years ago. And so I put that on hold for a little bit, became a single mother, went back into film. I skipped the film part there. I shouldn't have skipped the film part. I'll get back to that. And then I, worked back in film to help raise my son. So worked as a single mom. He was 18 months to 5 years old before I met my husband.
And at the same time, you were running the agency as well?
No. So I waited until my youngest Lucy was old enough, and I started it then. I had to have the time and the ability and the money and the no hands. Finally, it was like, okay. Basically, the artist kept on saying to me, Gina, when are you going to open? When are you going to open? And so I said, okay. I was going to wait 2 more years, but people shoved their portfolios in my hand and said, will you open this GD agency? And I'm like, okay, we're doing it. I started it in the downstairs of my house. I was the first home office, but I never told anybody. People thought we had a huge office downtown Vancouver. And I was like, shh, my kids are upstairs. And I just had my staff and everybody working downstairs. And I became an agent. And then I became an agent for photographers and even some DPs and whatnot. And I managed every aspect of their career. I branded them. I did their marketing. I created their portfolios. And I got them out there. And we became the #1 agency and all the top artists and photographers, and did all the stuff that came in from the US and Europe and ad campaigns around town. And I produced those shoots for the photographers, because they were so busy. They always did it themselves, and it was just a lot of work. So I was doing the budget, so I just produced it as well.
Gina, let's go back to the film part a little bit.
Yeah.
Where did you go from there during the period?
So let me throw it back to where I skipped over film because I sort of did it all. Being a makeup artist, my first film as a makeup artist was in 1987. And it was an indie film called Quarantine. But some of, like, Tobias Schliessler, that was the first film he ever DP'd. And everybody got their first there. So our first day on set, the hairstylist, Candace Lowen, and I were there. Okay, there was this thing called continuity. I think we have to do. I think we have to look at the monitor. Okay, I think we could do that. It was just, so we call it the Quarantine School of Filmmaking. And so much of us learned on that shoot. And so that was 1987. So I would always do an indie in between, but I was freelance. So I would do fashion. I would bounce. I would do film, fashion, celebrity, rock video, commercials, and sort of did the whole gamut for all those years. So as a makeup artist, I hung up my brushes in 2004 to begin my agency, They Representation, where I represented artists and photographers' careers. The natural progression was to produce all of the shoots and the video shoots. I did that for 18 years. Out of that, I got back into film, very happenstance, because I was contacted by a mother of a transgender boy. And the mother said, my son is transitioning from F to M, female to male. And we all knew him as a female model for years. We'd all done photo shoots. I had produced photo shoots with him. Crow is his name. And they said, we want to do one last photo shoot as him in his female body. We said, we'll all do it for free. I set the whole thing up. I got a studio. I thought about it. I went home and I go, God, this is an incredible story. He hasn't taken any testosterone yet. And I was like, this is just too crazy. And I called her back like a day or two later and I said, we need to follow this journey. It's incredible because maybe he can model as a male model. And so we could go and do a photo shoot as a male model after. That would be just really cool. And we'll just follow it and see how it goes, maybe a year or something like that. So I got back into film. And I was looking for a director. And I called up Tony Pantages, my old buddy, as my boyfriend when we were 19, and like one of my great, great, great friends to this day. And I was like, you got to help me with this. And so he came with some camera, and got me set up on the first day. I had no funding. Crow was transitioning in 1 month. His first job. So I'm like applying for funding. I'm doing every single Story Hive, every funding, about 5 or 6 applications, turned down for every single one. So my husband and I, executive producer, Tony Lazarowich, and I funded it. And it ended up going for 3 years, solid years of shooting over his transition. I thought it would be a year, but we followed him for 3 years. And so I would take it out. I shot 50% of the documentary myself. And so I just was thrown back into filmmaking. And then Tony says, well, there's no money. I can't do it. My wife will kill me, Jean, but I'm here for you. And I'm like, I never called myself the director for the first 2 years. I don't know why. It's just that impostor syndrome, especially that women have, and especially older women, and especially because I did so many things. Now I'm super proud of everything that I have done, all the things that I have done, because if I'm interested in it, I'll go do it. And I don't think anybody should be ashamed of doing that. If you've got the thought, you've got the talent, you've got the know-how, or you just have the heart to do it, just go do it. That's been my number one slogan, just go do it, or just do it. And so I have always done everything that's popped into my head. And so I'm doing this documentary and following Crow for 3 years and shooting 50% of it myself because I just couldn't afford DPs, but I had some great, DPs that came out. Shawnee Lawless, came out, he's like, I'm not taking any money. He'd bring his cameras and I love you so much. And just, a bunch of others came and helped those 3 years. So I kind of had a few different ones. And we got to the end and it was like, okay, we're going to do this male photo shoot now. I have no idea how I'm going to wrap up this documentary 3 years later, right? Because I know I needed a hook, right? So we do this photo shoot and Dexter Quinto, he did the very first photo shoot, which I adore Dexter. I represented him. He was one of the first photographers I ever took on, and I love him to this day. One of the kindest, most talented people. And so he shot the first one. 3 years later, we all came back the same team. And we did his first male shoot 3 years into his transition. Great. Literally 3 days later, I get a call. I look at my phone. It's like 8 a.m. And it's Liz Bell. And Liz Bell is one of the top modeling agencies, obviously in Vancouver and Canada, and respected around the world. And she's like, Gina, are you still doing that documentary with, that trans male model? And I said, well, yeah, we just did this his first photo shoot. I'll send you the photos. And she's like, okay, I just got a casting for Louis Vuitton for Paris Fashion Week. And I'm like, oh my God. She goes, I have to get him in here though. And I go, I'll set it up, but I have to shoot it. She goes, you have to do it now. I need it now. I go, okay. And I threw together a crew, sound, camera, and in we went. And I said, I have to follow him in the door because I also want to add in with this documentary, every single take is a oneer. To me, the sidebar, that was an incredibly important aspect for me because I am not transgender. I am not part of the LGBTQIA plus community, nor are any of my children. I say I'm probably one of the number one allies out there, at least in Vancouver or Western Canada, and because I believe in supporting and uplifting and stepping into the ring, I say, the proverbial ring for bullying. So I will step in for that. So I put the crew together and we went over to Liz Bell. She was over in North Van, just down the hill. And we walk in the door, camera. They sit down. The rest is history, modeling shots, send it off to Paris. He's booked. Let's get him on a plane. There was a little in between. He went there and auditioned and came back, but we didn't show that in the documentary because it was just too much. So we got on the plane. So in between that, I had put it out to Out TV. And Out TV came on with the finishing funds. Hallelujah. I could take a crew to Paris. So off we went with Crow. And he walked in Louis Vuitton Paris Fashion Week for his very first gig as a male model. Now, when he was working as a quote unquote female model, I don't like to say that because it's not proper to say that because in the transgender community, he was always a male inside. So we say his female body. But he sort of did, not a lot. He wasn't an A-list model. Here he was at the top of his game as a male model. He immediately became the number one trans male model in the world and was on every cover of every top magazine, Lomo, Vogue, GQ, the first trans male model. Across every top magazine. It was incredible. It's all shown in the documentary. It was the most uplifting, happy story. I believe in happy stories. I think people need it. This documentary was completed in 2019. We launched it to film festivals around the world. I'm still in my imposter syndrome stage. I'm like, nobody's going to take it. I reached out to my very good friend from the 80s, Denise Parkinson, who lives in London, has lived in London for 30 years. She sees it. She goes, "It's brilliant, Gina." She takes it to Rain Dance Film Festival in London. They chose it to open the film festival red carpet. So the whole cast, I say subjects, and all of us flew to London, and we opened to 2 full theaters of 450 people per theater, and I had to introduce the film, and we did a panel, and it was, the rest was history. We went on to, we screened immediately after that in Mallorca, Spain, Mallorca Film Festival. We won Best Documentary, not international, like Best Documentary, period. I was like, what is happening? I'm sitting, I just thought, international went to a kid in Australia. And then they're announcing it, and it's all in Spanish. So I'm getting some gum out of my purse. My husband and I, we're just going to stay for the documentary and then split. All of a sudden, blah, 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 10-minute speech about this film. And then all of a sudden, all I hear is Crow's transformation. And Tony nudges me, "Hon, I think you won." I say, "We won." We went down on stage and won this, big prize, and it was just unbelievable. So this little tiny film that kicked me back into the film industry, and my first directing, producing, executive producing, chief cook and bottle washer, running files, hard drives, all post-production, every single thing, which I love. That's how I got back into film.
That's a brilliant story.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. How are you going to top that?
I don't know. I don't know. It was very nerve-wracking, though. Very stressful.
Yeah.
Very stressful.
But you saw an opportunity. You saw a story that needed to be told.
That's it.
And that gave you the impetus. It's funny how you say, I've had that feeling myself, where you don't think you should be here. I'm on a set that's
the
way
imposter
too big for me.
syndrome.
The imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about how, well, you say you haven't quite gotten over it, but
I'm better now.
Well, it's just that I think that's also part of being able to tell other young people who want to come up in the industry.
That's it.
Like you said, just do it.
Yeah.
Teach yourself and learn how to retool.
That's it.
Focus on it. Yeah.
So if I'm speaking to young people, you'll never get over the imposter syndrome, right?
You shouldn't, because then you're still
that keeps it
hard.
Real. That means you care so much. You care. You care about the outcome. You care about the product, and never lose that. Never lose that. I say every job I've gone to, and I've been in the industry for almost 40 years. I've covered 4 decades of fashion and 3 decades of film. And there hasn't been one job that I haven't had butterflies the night before. And that's just keeping it real. That's just getting your mojo going to get on there. So if you have the imposter syndrome, I say just jump in with both feet.
Yeah.
Just don't let them see you sweat.
Doing what you love. Over your experience, what are some of the changes you've seen in the industry over the past 40 years? Because for me in camera, one of the biggest I've seen has been in lighting. Mm-hmm. Cameras have gone from film to digital, but lighting has spiked. In this industry, what have you seen that sticks out in your mind?
Oh, great question. You'll love this. So I come from film. I come from Panavision cameras. I come from the old school of filmmaking, indie films. And I did IATSE. I did big films, usually as a first assistant makeup artist on big films. And then I keyed small films, but it was all film. I actually never did the medium of digital. I got out of it. I retired and opened my agency. And then all of a sudden, digital sort of sprung on everybody. And which I was very familiar with because I was still producing in digital for photography and videos. So I understood that and post-production with that. So I got that medium of file management and everything. But what was very interesting is when I went to do my documentary, I had no money, Brad, but I had an iPhone and I had iPads, and there was nothing else I can do about it. And I got free gear from Beauphoto. They gave me Canon. So I mixed all these mediums. I know you're cringing, don't cringe. And then when the DPs came, they came with their red cameras. So I had, Canons, Reds. I would go into a doctor's office with him to talk about his top surgery. And it was just me following in. So I'd just stick up an iPad on sticks in the corner so I could at least have B-roll. And it worked.
Yeah.
And so, you know what stitched it together? Color.
Yep. Digital is really forgiving.
Unbelievable. Yep. And I was mortified about my film, about the technical aspects of it. Mortified because I come from this perfection of film, and there's no room for error with film. And then you come to digital. Well, damn, you can get away with anything. We'll talk about my new film later, but one small point. As a director of my latest film, I chose to do zero makeup.
Really? Coming from an ex-makeup artist.
My first scripted documentary, zero makeup. And in post, I just went in and warmed her up a little bit. I wanted the Frances McDormand,
Right.
But yeah, so digitally, we throw up some lights, but iPhones and iPads just picked up the light. It actually lit them better. The Canons were very orange in tone, it was very deep and saturated, where I liked the crispness. I think it was the makeup artist in me that liked the crispness of the digital. And that really spoke to me. I love post color. I mean, I'm obsessed because I was a makeup artist. I'm used to looking at one eyelash in a monitor, Do they have a little booger in their eye or something? Is that lip line straight, eyeball? And so I bring that over into my post skills and looking at the monitor. And so that was a big one for me. So sending it to Out TV, the rough cut, I was mortified. They're like, well, we've got to see it. Send it off. And I'm just covered my eyes. And I was like, oh God, they're just going to email me back and go, this is a piece of, who do you think you are? I honestly thought that.
But this is just a rough cut.
This is the rough cut. But this is like iPad mixed with, there's no color. There's no, I get notes back from Philip at Out TV. And he's like, well, I love the journey of the mother and the son. When you edit it, you should bring that forward more. And, there was like 3 notes, nothing technical.
Wow.
And they organized all the posts for me. And then they gave me the money to get to Paris. So I was absolutely astounded. And right then and there, I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. I didn't F up too badly there. If somebody from Out TV who has been producing for decades just gives me those notes. So, phew, I did it. And I learned so much from stitching those together. Now, I wouldn't do that again. I did that because I had to. Yeah. But what does it show? It shows that you can do it.
Yep.
You just grab a camera and do it. If you're sitting there and you're like, I don't have the equipment, I don't have the camera, I don't have the, just do it. Grab your iPhone and just, as long as you're shooting, as long as you're doing it, just get out there and do it. In the fashion industry, everybody works for pay, high pay. And what do they do on the weekends? They go do creatives and all for free. They call up a model, they get a stylist, the photographers, because they want to fill their portfolios with their stuff, not other people's stuff. And it's the best shoots that they have on their portfolios sometimes. So the point is they get out there and do it for free. They're not sitting there waiting for money. And, on that Facebook page, the film Facebook page in BC, I see that all the time. It's like, oh, well, there's no pay on this, but everybody, there's no pay. And I was like, I chime in as a producer. It's like, just, if you're new, everybody needs credits. Everybody needs IMDb credits. They need resume credits. Just get out there and fill your resume.
Yeah. One thing I admire about my colleagues in the film industry is they're out to help always. And that's how you learn.
Right.
Bring someone on board who ask that award-winning DP to help you shoot your short on the weekend, because chances are if they can make it happen, they will.
And that's what happened on my last film.
Tell us about that film.
Okay.
You just completed it.
Okay.
Your first dramatic directorial debut.
Yes, scripted. Yeah. So I was looking at the Bowen Island Facebook page, and there was a post from a mother saying, my son in grade 9 has a script and is shooting a film, and we need a director and we need actors. And I'm like, he's in grade 9. And I'm like, some big actors were put forward. And I messaged her going, directing, like I could stand in the background, and oh, no, he doesn't want to direct. He wants to shoot. And he wrote this script. I got the script. Now I've been sent a bunch as a producer. I've been sent scripts, and and you don't even want to say to people, I'm just not interested at all. It doesn't spark anything in me because that could be their baby. And I read this short script, and it was so basic, written by a 14-year-old. No, I'm not kidding. This kid's going to be the next Spielberg. Not as a director, but as a DP, as a film creator, maybe as a writer. I saw every single shot when I read the script. I pictured every single shot. And I was like, this is so visual. And the small, short sentences that he wrote, it was 7 pages. And we went and so long story long, I said, okay, well, I'll direct, but we can do it one of two ways. We can, I can stand in the background and I can just mentor and, help him with, because it's not the same as doing a documentary or a YouTube. If you got actors and you've got scripted, there's camera shots and there's coverage and multiple takes and 2 cameras, if you're lucky. And because I come from that world, so I knew it intimately. I've worked with like top directors in the industry as a makeup artist and DPs. And so I just stood on set and learned from them, because I've never taken a course in anything that I've done. So I just read a great quote from Quentin Tarantino. Somebody said, what film school did you go to? And he goes, I didn't go to film school. I went to movies. And that's Tarantino's quote. And I'm like, that's exactly how I learned. I learned sitting on set, just working with the best directors and DPs and looking how they light and how they shoot it, camera angles and everything. So I found it quite easy. But so we go and we do this documentary on Bowen Island. And I said, one of 2 ways. So I can mentor, or we can go big or go home. And that's kind of my middle name. People know me as Gina, go big or go home, Lazarowich. Bringing on an A-list crew is what, I always say, go big or go home. And so bringing on a crew, I reached out to Nick Thomas, the DP, and he said yes. My husband, Tony, had just been working with him on a show, and he just said, yeah, I'm in. And he brought his camera operators. We wanted the B camera, but we couldn't afford it. But what Nick went and did was he has his Aries, and which it was the short film was shot on Aries. But he went to Aries, and they had just got in these lenses, these anamorphic lenses that were actually created for the last Batman movie. And it was the first film since Batman that these lenses have been used, and they donated them for free, $500,000. So we had to pay for a big insurance policy. And Nick brought on his gear, and we got these lenses. And then my husband knows everybody too. I'm sort of removed from, I feel like I'm coming back into the film industry. I'm the newest, oldest filmmaker out there. I know everybody too. But Tony is boots on the ground on set, and he has great respect as a special effects coordinator or supervisor, I should say, special effects supervisor. And so he's like, well, we should call this person. And so we text them. So, Simon Burnett, stunt coordinator. He's like, Deadpool, and he just did, Final Destination, Bloodlines with my husband, just the tops in his game. He's all come out for free. And I was like, we can pay for your ferry to come to Bowen. Nah. So we got this A-level crew, camera department, props, just wardrobe. And I said, there's the no gray area shoot. It's like A-level and free Bowen people. So when I got this script, I sent it to, I read it, and for casting, I was like, gosh, I can just see Philip Granger in this role. And I've known Phil for a long time. I did his makeup for films in the early 90s, and I just sent it to him, and I said, Phil, read this script. And I just thought he would say, yeah, thank you, or get his agent to say, no, thank you. And he took it and he read it. And about a couple days later, he goes, it's a great little script. I'm in. I was like, you're kidding. The one person who I saw said he was in. So for the title character of Robert. So the short film starring Philip Granger is a story about a Vietnam War vet with PTSD. So we're honoring Vietnam War veterans with PTSD. And I've got it out to film festivals all over the world. I went on to Film Freeway yesterday and I checked, and it's like every single one I'm in consideration for. Sundance, London, Toronto, Calgary, VIFF, everything. So we're being watched right now. So keep your fingers crossed for our little film that could. But to me personally, I think that Phil will win awards for his performance. We had Michelle Harrison, huge actor in Vancouver, has been for decades. She is unbelievable. A resident of Bowen Island for 17 years. She came on as my second lead. And she played the Flash's mother in The Flash. She's unbelievable. She having amazing talent like that, when I couldn't get an insert shot or we're pressed for time, she sells an entire scene with her eyes. I'm missing a shot. We couldn't get this cup shot, and it drove me crazy. And we moved on from it too quickly. And I kicked myself as a first-time scripted director. Oh, don't let them move on that quickly. But looking when I was editing, it says it all in her eyes, and I didn't have to do anything else, and it's absolute magic. And so that's it. We made this little film that could. We shot it over 3 days, and on the third day, the following weekend, we recreated the Vietnam War, a small scene, and that's what opens the film. And my husband, of course, coming with his pyro. So him and I got to, we've done, I think, on IMDb 7 projects together. We met on a movie, fell in love on a movie. Well, after. I wouldn't date him. I didn't date guys when I worked on set because I was a single mother. So we dated afterwards, and the rest is history. We've been together for 27 years. So he's my producing partner in my film company. He's the producer as well of this short film. He brought on so many people. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
So safe to say, Safe to say your next movie is going to be very effects intensive, like explosions and all kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just great. Working with my husband and doing explosions, and I'm directing, and it was just the most amazing experience. And it's just another reason that brought us closer together. Usually, sometimes people can pull them apart or they can fight, but it brought us closer together. He's very supportive of me, props me up, and we prop each other up. I do the same for his career as a special effects supervisor.
This is great to hear, because a lot of people I talk to aren't in the film industry say, well, what does a producer do? And usually the answer is, we're not sure.
Yeah.
But there are many hats, and many producers wear many different hats. But what you've just explained over the last half hour is basically what a producer does, is kind of puts it all together and wears many.
That's a really good thing. Okay. Can I just comment on that?
Please, yeah.
So as a producer, I remember being the crew member on set and looking over at these people sitting behind the monitor on these chairs with their Starbucks and their big puffy coats and going, what the hell are they doing? And now being a producer, I'm like, do you know what the hell they do? You wouldn't have a job. They've got the money to pay your paycheck. Films nowadays take multiple sources of funding. Unless it's Netflix, but Netflix has a cap, and they're like, if you go one dime over, you've got to pay for it yourself. So you have multiple hats. Some person might have put in 5 million. Some person might put in 1 million, 30 million, whatever. All those people sitting in those chairs brought the money that is putting this film together, and we need to thank them. And then they're sitting on set to make sure that their investment is, going well. There's also the producers that bring the crew together. So those are the people that hire you. And those are the important local producers. And they're hired by a producer, say in LA, that hires the producer locally. Usually in film, executive producer means the money, and the producer means the person that makes it happen. With that money. Yes. It's a bit different in television. You've got showrunners now. Executive producers can be the showrunners, and it's a little more power with an executive producer in television. But basically in film, that's how it works. So anyways.
You've answered a big question there too, Gina, because when I started out, you'd see maybe on the call sheet 2 or 3 producers. Now call sheets are pretty heavy with producers on them. But like you said, it's not just one studio that's coughing up the money for it. Funding has to come from many sources.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like, look at my journey with not getting any funding. So those people are...
Yeah, but you made it look easy. At first, it didn't look easy, but all of a sudden...
Well, our special effects, Pacific West Special Effects, really funded that film.
But you were resourceful. You saw something that a story that needed to be told.
Yeah.
And you were resourceful to find out how we can put these pieces together and shoot it, like you said, on iPhone if we have to.
Yeah, so I could produce the shit out of anything. I went and got free gear for 3 years. Photo, we love you.
Gina, tell me a little bit outside of film what you do. Do you have any other hobbies? Anything unrelated to film?
I'm a businesswoman. I run our special effects company, mostly from home. But my husband started Pacific West Special Effects in 1991. And he is one of the senior special effects supervisors in this, but he also had a rental business, and it grew and it grew, and he bought more gear and more gear and more gear before he met me. So he had quite a successful rental business. Through COVID, I decided to dissolve my agency from being an agent and dissolve my production company and just focus on They Film, my film company. And so, but I also said I want to expand that side of the business, because we would rent the smoke machine and wouldn't have the jug of fluid to go in it, and made me crazy. So he's like, well, you got to do it, because he's too busy on set shooting. So I put in a store. Now we have Ed, our manager, who runs it, but I sort of oversee. I have to do all the contracts and everything from the studios. So that's what I do. It's our family business, but I just finished my film. And but personally, also, I'm very political. Politics is, I always say, is my my Stanley Cup, my, whatever. I follow politicians. I follow politics. I'm very proactive with my MPs and MLAs. I got my film into the Legislative Assembly to show it to both sides of government and the opposition. Because my film has gone on, Crow's Transformation, my documentary has gone on worldwide, and we have been on multiple panels and invited all over the world to speak on behalf of the transgender community. I can't speak for the transgender community, but I can talk about the film. I bring my subjects and they talk about their journeys. So anyways, I've been able to show my film to the Legislative Assembly in Victoria, and we also took it to Ottawa to show it to the federal government, because I believe in taking it to the top, and it trickles down, and empathy trickles down. So you have to make the politicians aware and empathize with people's journeys in order for them to pay attention. Yeah. And so I'm very proactive in that. It's also they pay back. If you support their campaigns, they pay back. It's very important. I got involved with that with Save BC Film in 2013 when the film industry dropped out. And I was like, well, what can I do? Because we have a small business that needs to stay afloat. Right. We have infrastructure in Vancouver. Without Pac West, there's no rain trusses spinners in Vancouver. So what can I do to proactively make this happen? I'm going to go out after my MLA. And I brought her and I sat her down with some senior producers. And she took 17 pages of notes. And she went on to, Jane Thornthwaite went on to, go after it quite hard. And she got the Dave tax credit put through. She just basically pestered the government. Nobody was looking at film back then. Remember, we were out there trying to make ourselves heard. Hence, now we're a $4 billion industry. Well, it's rolled back hill since then, but yeah. So politics, I guess, is my sport, and gardening. I'm an insane organic gardener, and I love my garden, and that's my happy place.
Brilliant. I'll wrap up by asking, what's next?
So I'm writing a script. I'm writing a feature film, and it's a semi-autobiographical script of a young girl's journey. It starts in Vancouver, and it ends up in Palm Springs in 1977, in the height of the disco era, drugs, everything, and sort of a coming of age mixed with Frank Sinatra's Mafia.
So based on your history with making movies, we should see this next year?
I've been talking about writing this film. People roll their eyes for about 4 years. I put it on hold. I've got about 1/3 of it written, and I keep putting it on hold to do this film and to start my Pac West. And now I'm just sitting down. I just looked at the funding came open at Creative BC. So I just flagged that today. I am tomorrow literally sitting down and going to apply for that, pre-funding for help developing scripts and so on and so forth. So
brilliant. Gina, what are your thoughts on how AI is affecting the industry?
Well, I'll just give one quick comment about AI. Is I don't think that people need to fear AI. And I'll give you one example is as a makeup artist, when digital came in, we said, we're going to be replaced. Yeah. They're going to do digital makeup. And we actually had real fear 20 years ago that we would be replaced as makeup artists. They just put the lipstick on after and clean up the skin and everything, which they can do. But that's impossible. You cannot replace the human relationship on filmmaking. There's no way an actor would allow that. So I don't think that the film industry has anything to worry about. We watched a really good documentary on Netflix with Bill Gates talking about AI. And I don't think it's going to do things like tweak in editing or tweak scripts, but it's not going to fully replace in the film industry.
Right. Gina, thank you for spending the time on the Circus.
That was very fun. Thank you for doing this for the industry. It's just such a great, great thing for young filmmakers and then old guard like us. So I'm young like them and I'm old like you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, that about wraps it up for another episode of Crew Tales, Life in the Circus. I'd like to thank our producers Dustin Schwinnard and Dustin Girton, as well as our technical producer Rob Hunt. I'm Brad Hodson. Thank you for joining us.